Imagine your business as a massive flywheel. You've built momentum over years, it's spinning steadily, generating great revenue. Then you add one strategic element, a book, and suddenly that wheel accelerates to speeds you never imagined. That's exactly what Anton Anderson discovered this past year. For over a decade, Anton had built elite resource team into a thriving business. He was already successful by any measure, but when he published The Art of Collaboration last year, something extraordinary happened. His already impressive revenue tripled. Today, we're exploring how a book played a pivotal role in his massive growth, why he immediately published a second one, and his ambitious plans to complete a 4-book series that promises to reshape how advisors and accountants collaborate. Anton Anderson, how are you doing?
Life is good, Mr. Paul McManus. Great to be on with you, man.
Yeah, super excited to be talking to you today. And I was thinking about it right now. This is your third time on my podcast. I don't know that I've had many two-timers. In reality, we've actually done a kind of a webinar/podcast. So technically, this could be number 4. So,
Wow.
there's something about you that I must like because this is your 4th time back on the podcast. So welcome back.
Wow. See, now you made my day. Thank you very much. The feelings are mutual.
It's been a year since the Elite Growth Academy, the EGA in San Diego, June 2024. And here we are in June 2025. And I guess the premise of wanting to have you back on the podcast was just to hear from you what's transpired this past year. I know that we published your first book, The Art of Collaboration, roughly a year ago. You already have moved into your second book, so we want to get some updates on how everything is going. And then you have your next big event this month, which is it called the EGA or have you renamed it?
We rebranded. Yeah. I can speak to why if you want, but we
Sure.
rebranded that Virtual Family Office Collective.
And what was the basis for the rebrand?
We were looking at the growth over the years and just really seeing how much the virtual family office value proposition has been resonating with clients, both our clients, meaning the advisors and the CPAs, as well as their end user clients. And the better we've gotten at telling that story and the history of the family office and how family offices have evolved today and what a multifamily office, fractional family office, virtual family office, how much value they bring clients, the more we've realized it really is one of our, I'd say, 2 unique positions in the marketplace and what I'm incredibly passionate about, because at the end of the day, a virtual family office is just collaboration. It's literally a different name for the team-based model, which is what we started calling this 11 years ago when we launched Elite Resource Team. And what I was drawing out on napkins 12, 13 years ago with CPAs and other partners at that time. And so it's just been a really fun journey. And I'm so excited on how much people are waking up, how outdated the mindset of competition is, and how much more people are recognizing the power of collaboration. Hence the book, The Art of Collaboration, and the second book that you referenced, The Art of Proactivity. So that's partly why the event was rebranded from Elite Growth Academy, which is a little bit more generic and vague, to the Virtual Family Office Collective. We're just really leaning in and owning that identity, I would say, more.
Is there anything new or different or in terms of this year's? Is it similar to last year's or is it going to be anything materially different from last year?
Definitely a lot of similarities. So if you've been to events in the past, you'll know this is an event hosted by Elite Resource Team. I think the general philosophy is going to be there, but we're just going to be even more, I'd say, clear with the vision and inviting for those that really resonate with the idea of leveraging a virtual family office and forming strategic partnerships. And I referenced a moment ago, I think the virtual family office is one of the 2 things that I think we've really wrapped our arms around and found a true passion in. And the second is the collaboration, of course, between the advisors and the CPAs. Those partnerships, or I should say more generically, the advisors and the accountants, those partnerships, when they really come together with intention, as we've been preaching for a while, and then they leverage a virtual family office to fill in the gaps where they're not a specialist, the power of that one too is just, I think it's unmatched in the marketplace. Hence, a lot of the growth of both the event, the members of the community, our company. That will certainly be front and center at the event, is just really how substantial this opportunity is. And we'll share a lot of stories and data from behind the scenes, the members there. and help them understand from our perspective, it's only the beginning. Like literally, Paul, I think you and I were talking for a few minutes before we started the recording and just talking about visions and goals and such. And I've just more than ever really found a deep passion behind how I think disruptive this opportunity is going to be in the traditional market space and how excited I am to be a part of that disruption.
Well, I want to grow 10x from where I'm at today. How do I do that? And so I've been thinking about this question. And ultimately, I need to bring 10x more value to the marketplace. So it's not about just selling 10 times more
Yep.
stuff and saying, hey, I've sold 10 times more stuff. I think that's fundamentally the wrong approach. What else can I sell? It's really more fundamentally, how can I bring 10x more value to my clients and by extension to the marketplace? And that's how you actually create 10x growth. And so what I'm extrapolating from your growth is that if you're growing at that clip at this point in your business, it's because you're adding significant value to your members. And that's what's propelling your growth.
Yeah, I like to think so. I hope so. That's the motivation behind why we do what we do. And I think it's absolutely what you just said. There's a degree of the rock cutter's creed where you just keep chipping away at something you believe in and put aside the fact that you're not seeing the immediate result of each time the hammer hits the rock, but just having the faith that what you're doing is actually making a difference. And then you have these years like last year for us, 3 times to the size of our company. And that's well, we've been chipping away for the last 3 years before that. And then finally it was boom, 1 or 2 more hits of the hammer and the rock cracks. And so now where are we at? Well, it'll be interesting to see. The year has started off strong for us, but using a second analogy, I grew up with a father who loved the outdoors and rock climbing. And I really like that analogy of you climb up to a certain height above the last carabiner you put in, and then you intentionally kind of slow down and evaluate the circumstance and look for a place to hit the next carabiner into the rock. And then you climb some more from there. So it might be a slower way to grow, but what you end up doing, if you look back at now 11 years of our company, is you strategically grow over time and you intentionally make sure that the foundation is solid. So you might miss some opportunities and you might make some mistakes, which all companies do, and we certainly have. But ideally, you only fall, whatever that is, 10 feet, 15 feet, and you catch yourself before you really have something catastrophic. So I think in terms of our vision and our goal, we experienced growth that exceeded what we anticipated last year. And we are intentionally looking at the foundation of the team and the value proposition and the community, breathing a little bit, trying to make sure we have our carabiners in the right spot while simultaneously looking at what's the next path where we grow from here.
There's the old saying that you become the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And you referenced John Cutton earlier. He has his own monster size, rapidly growing business. Who have been the biggest influences on your way of thinking? Whether it's people that you know in real life, like John Cutton, or just people that maybe you follow online. Who inspires you to think bigger and pursue that and pursue the vision that and the path that you're on?
It's across the board when you ask that question. Paul Latham, one of my business partners, he's had a phenomenal background, sold his accounting firm for over 45 million, he's taken a company public, sold another company for 50 million. And his level of just business awareness in terms of the foundational levers that move a company, I think is very inspiring and I learned a lot from. There's some members of our community that have really challenged my thinking and have given so many good ideas and I'd say collectively added to what is being built in a way that's been so humbling and inspiring. Because it's one thing when you see yourself as the one that's like cheering on the mission, right? But when the mission starts gaining momentum and it creates a life of its own, you have these moments where you look around and you go, oh my goodness, this thing is so much bigger than me. There's so many more people that are talented, that are smart, that are driven, that are innovative. And you realize I want to be a part of this, but I don't want to hold this thing back. Like I can't let my ego get in the way. And so I'm looking at some of the members of the community and just going, wow, how exciting is this that I get to play ball with not only business partners now at that level or mentors, but also other clients, our clients, the advisors and the CPAs, accountants. So that's been really exciting and pushing a lot of innovation and growth and challenging my mindset. And then I've got an executive coach that I started working with late in 2024 who works more with CEOs, entrepreneurs, regardless of the industry they're in. And similar, he's very much been pushing my mindset and growth. His first name's Ray. Shout out to you, Ray, if you listen to this podcast. And overall, Paul, I feel like it's just being fortunate in a way with believing in an idea, and then being in the right place at the right time to an extent. I mean, the idea of a virtual family office, if it wasn't for COVID, it wouldn't have accelerated the virtual aspect and people being on Zooms every day and not being normal or Teams. And then the other thing that's happening right now, which I think is where some of the growth last year came from, and certainly some of the growth right now, is AI. And just the traditional way that people have served their end user clients, whether it's in the accounting space or the wealth management space, is being disrupted. And they're scared of that. And they should be, because if you're used to running your business one way and you can see that there's technology that's making your traditional offering either outdated or less valuable, you should be proactively looking at, how do I get ahead of this change so that way I can position my value in the marketplace so I'm not actually replaced by the whatever the disruption is, but AI in this circumstance, but I'm actually leveraging the AI. So I think AI and virtual has made our model even more powerful and valuable than it was 5 years ago. And I think in the next 6 to 12 to 18 months, it's only going to continue on that pace. Because the more AI disrupts or gives people the ability to have access to the information and the knowledge, the more valuable the relationship and the process becomes. So if you don't have a process that leverages relationships and collaboration, and you're just purely competing on product or information, as soon as information is readily available through AI, ChatGPT, et cetera, now people don't need you for that. I can go and create investment summary accounts. I can create legal documents. There's so many things I can use ChatGPT for now, and it won't be long before it's doing tax returns and managing assets and all these things. Now, all of a sudden I go, okay, well, what don't I have? I don't have a center point of communication where my professionals are all collaborating on my behalf to make sure that the AI is actually being led appropriately, if that makes sense.
It's interesting times. I feel that I got into AI as an early adopter back in 2022, prior to ChatGPT blowing up and becoming popular. And I've just leaned into it the whole time. And so some days I think, okay, am I an AI company? And maybe, I don't know, but it's definitely been leaning into it for the past 3 years, I guess now. And the ironic thing is that I have this vision in my head that I want to be like the first billion-dollar solo entrepreneur company where the AI does everything for me. But ironically, the more we grow while leaning into AI, the more people I need. And so everybody that works with us, they leverage AI tools, but the growth has created the need for people working efficiently with AI. And I imagine that's going to be the trend, at least for, I was going to say the foreseeable future, and the foreseeable future at this point is probably about 3 to 5 years versus 10 years. Or we're 10 years out, that could be a whole different scenario. I want to shift gears a little bit, and let's talk about books. You published your first book, The Art of Collaboration, roughly a year ago. I'm just on your behalf, I'm going to assert that your growth was primarily, your 3x growth over the past year was driven primarily through the fact that you wrote that book. That's my assertion.
100%.
Because what's interesting is that what I tell people is that it's not about book sales. It's who cares about book sales? Although I think you've had a few royalties, which is always fun. But it's really about how you strategically leverage the book. And at the end of the day, it's how you insert it into everything that you do. You've already had I'd say, a well-established brand before the book. I think the book just became one more lever or one more piece of marketing collateral that you could integrate into what you're already doing to create a flywheel that spins faster, is kind of my view. Tell us from your perspective, what have you done with the book that's been successful? How has it played a role in your growth? And is there any lessons learned, like, I wish I shouldn't have done that, or anything like that an advisor can listen to and learn from?
100%. It's been a big part of the flywheel that you referenced. And that concept of the flywheel, if somebody's not familiar with it, is just you start moving and you get a little momentum. And the more you can add to that flywheel, the more the momentum becomes self-generating or perpetuating, and the faster and faster it becomes. And so in business, with most things as well, you have either a positive spiraling flywheel or a negative. If you kind of get real lazy and you stop doing things and you are late for meetings, and then you have this negative flywheel. On the other hand, if you're investing more energy, you're reading, you're listening to podcasts, you write a book, you improve your client delivery, all of these things become this kind of upward spinning flywheel, I would say. The book has been significant. First of all, it was a great exercise to put, as you can tell, I'm hopefully from this podcast, I'm a passionate individual. with a lot of words to say around this topic. And so it forces you to really refine that message and put it in writing, which is a really good exercise. And then what it allows you to do is deliver that message. So there are some people that learn from YouTube videos, right? And we got a ton of YouTube videos. There's some people that learn from listening to podcasts. There's other people that learn from books. And having a different communication method that matches your individual client's learning style, it's hard to, I think, put a specific value on that, because there's people that absolutely would have either shut off our message or would have not resonated in the same way if they hadn't read it in the book. So that's the people that actually read it and like absorb it. And then besides that, from a purely like marketing and branding perspective, having a book and having it on a specific area that you kind of, I use this term with you in the past, but you put your flag in the ground and say, I'm taking ownership of this area. I'm an expert in this. I'm a specialist in this. It's not that I just jumped on the bandwagon, but actually I've been doing it. I wrote a book on it. I can speak about it all day long. It adds to that credibility and that the fact that you're an author in that space. So those are all really like fun, I'd say meaningful results. And then in terms of how we use it, so we use it in marketing as kind of a lead magnet. We also use it when somebody joins our company in terms of a new member of our company, our team. So we have member success managers that will meet new clients. And the first thing they'll do is ask, have you read our collaboration? If not, be happy to send you a free copy. If you can read it by the next time we meet in 2 weeks, we'd love to hear your feedback on it. So we use it like that. We've got the audio version. So if people go, I'm a little busy, no problem. There's a version on Audible. You can listen to it in a couple hours, get some of the same overall message. Had a bunch of interview requests. Obviously, we did a book signing at our event last year, which was fun. I think went pretty well. And it led to the discussion of the second book, which we just published about a month ago. There's ultimately a vision now for this to be a 4-part series. So the first book was written towards the advisor and accountant in mind on how they collaborate with one another. That was the art of collaboration. How the advisor and accountant collaborate. The second book was the art of proactivity, how the traditional accountant can become a virtual family office professional. And obviously that's all written towards the accountant in mind.
Tell us a little bit more about the art of proactivity. What's the premise of it?
Sure. So it was written, it opens up talking about Paul Latham, my business partner's experience with growing his firm Latham's, which ultimately sold for roughly 45 million. At that time, virtual wasn't nearly as effective or popular, and they had over 225 employees. So it was a very large, very well-run accounting firm. And the reason they got over 45 million is it was incredibly forward-looking. It was very proactive. And they had a family office, in essence. It just wasn't virtual. And because they had 225 employees, they hired all of these people in-house. So the art of proactivity is looking at what really were the lessons that were learned there. And then how have we taken a lot of those lessons and applied them to a 2025 environment where now we can leverage a virtual family office. So you don't need 225 employees.
Could you imagine that your, educational training company at the heart of what you do? Could you imagine having a business model where you were bringing on advisors and saying, so part of our model is you have to go hire 200 specialists to do this. I think we all face our challenges today and problems, whatever, but just to step back and look 20 years ago or so to what the reality was in terms of if you wanted to deliver what you can deliver today seamlessly, and I don't want to say effortlessly, but just virtually, and just it seems elegant and seamless, the contrast is huge.
It's massive. And that's partly why I referenced early in the podcast, like my optimism and my commitment level of really seeing this vision through it's just higher than it's ever been. And our company has roughly 25 internal team members or employees, and we've got a virtual family office of roughly 75 specialists. So you add those two together, you got 100 people. Now, if a member can join our community and tap into a team of roughly 100, all of a sudden, that's a massive resource. That's called leverage, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to have the payroll of 100 people, the HR issues, but you can leverage other people's experience, skill set, payroll, etc., to be able to offer a similar experience. That's a lot of what we talk about in that book is, in essence, Paul's journey and then how to take the lessons from that, but then apply it to a 2025 opportunity with a virtual family office, AI, partnerships, etc.
And that book was written to the accountant, to the CPA,
Correct.
Not to the financial advisor.
Right.
And how are you getting that? How are you either creating awareness for it, or how are you getting that into the hands of the accountant?
Good question. We have over 300 accountants that are part of our membership community currently.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have advisors, more than that, probably 400, call it roughly, advisors that are part of one of our membership tiers. And they're all working with, or at least building relationships with accountants. And so lots of advisors bought 20, 30 copies and just said, I'm going to give this to each of the accountants that I'm forming relationships with because I want them to read it and understand it. And then we share them with the accountants, and we have strategic partnerships like Tax Plan IQ and offered free copies for people that were on webinars we did with them. And obviously we'll have the event in a few weeks. We'll have copies for people there. It's just one more way to try to get the message out.
In this case, Paul Latham primarily wrote the draft, and then we helped you do stuff like copy editing and publishing and things
Clean
of
it
that
up.
nature.
Yeah.
And so I've read it, and it was interesting because it was all from most of it, not or much of it was from Paul Latham's point of view because it was about historian background. But I definitely appreciated his humor showing up at parts throughout it. I think what I wanted to say though was that it's interesting because this is like accountant to accountant, and so we have our tribes, and we kind of trust the people that are in our tribes, and then you've built this super tribe that you're bringing together advisors and accountants together. But I can imagine that, again, a couple things about book is that it's educational value. So it's not seen as promotional generally. It's seen as educational, and it's coming from the accountant. And so I can see how much more effective this could be for an advisor to share this book with an accountant so that they can evaluate it and say, and determine for themselves, is this an approach that they want to take or not? Paul makes a very compelling case about what he was able to accomplish. You make a very compelling case about where we are today and what the future looks like. What has the reaction been from accountants?
I think it's been positive. I mean, it really resonates with the accountants that know things are coming, and some of them have started shifting their business. They're moving in that direction, and this message helps them to continue accelerating that change. And others, maybe they're aware of it, but they're still on the sidelines a little bit, just kind of wondering, where do I go from here? How do I get started? What do I do? What are my options? And so for them, hopefully we're laying out a path to let them know they're not alone, and they don't have to invest a ton of money in hiring a private consultant to come in for 20 grand and reinvest their firm, redesign their firm or something. There's a good shift happening. And so they can align with a community and use leverage to learn from other people. Even if you're an advisor, I think understanding the journey that the accountant's going on, if you want to be a good partner to them, you have to understand what it's like to be in their shoes.
I think that's it. I think it's seeing it, being able to honestly see it from their point of view and that desire. And could you imagine if it's like, okay, we need to make changes, but I don't know what to do and I'm on my own versus, oh, I can just plug into what you've already done over the past 11 years now.
Yeah.
Something that's vetted, proven, all those lessons, all the things that you provide to allow someone to much more seamlessly start progressing in this direction.
I think that's well said. And the reality is most of the accountants, I mean, much like advisors, but it's not like they don't already have full plates. They haven't been replaced. They still have hundreds of clients that have their own needs and demands, and tax seasons are a real thing. And so even if they want to change or have started changing, they're juggling a lot. There's a lot of weight on their shoulders. And so giving them an easier way to begin that journey and a clearer path to go down, I think can be absolutely career changing and in many ways life changing.
What you bring up, this is fresh on my mind. I'm actually in the process of working with one of our mutual colleagues, John Randall, who is a coach for advisors. We're working on his book. And one of the things that he talks about that I've learned from him is just one of the biggest challenges is just constraint. It's not always bringing on new people think I need more revenue, but it's how busy an advisor is, how busy at least the people that he works with are dealing with similar issues, being C-level clients that may or may not be profitable. And for that CEO owner level advisor, that the first thing that they need to do is they need to free up their time. They need to be able to develop the team effectively, look at their list, see who makes a good sense so that they're in a position to be able to grow with A-level clients. It's just the parallels that I'm seeing between what you teach and what he teaches are very similar.
Absolutely. I think it's something probably most business owners or entrepreneurs wrestle with, but I think CPAs are uniquely positioned right now to wrestle with that. It's a little bit of a perfect storm. It's already a very demanding business model, running a traditional accounting practice. And then you have so much chaos going on at the IRS that it becomes even harder to run a practice, profitable practice. It's very time consuming and demanding. And then you have a model that traditionally isn't very profitable either. So hiring good staff becomes very difficult.
here listening to you and reading his book, it's like I think you can put it into a niche or industry, CPA advisor, but and I'm neither. But it's like, oh wait, that's kind of the journey of most business owners, right?
Yeah.
That's even what you and I were talking about, how you've developed this great team, this great company, and you're still in the progressively freeing yourself up so that you can focus more on the visionary role. It's a common journey. I think, each of it has its particulars, but to any business owner, I think it's something that we can all relate to some degree.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said.
Tell me about the other books. We talked about the art of collaboration, the art of productivity. What are the other, I think you said two books.
Yeah. So first one, the art of collaboration, how advisors and accountants can collaborate. The second one, the art of proactivity, how accountants in essence can become more proactive, leveraging a virtual family office. The third one, which we don't necessarily have a working title yet, but it's going to be written for the end user client in mind. I'd say the clients that the model helps the most is probably the mass affluent, the high income earners, the business owners. It's really written with them in mind to help them understand the power of leveraging a virtual family office and working with an advisor and accountant in partnership. That will be obviously with you, of course, as well. And that will be our first kind of client-facing book. And the idea there will be advisors or accountants could use it as a tool to share with prospects, to share with current clients that they're interested in inviting into their virtual family office client experience. So the fourth book will be written, and this is more of a 2026 project with the advisor in mind, wealth manager in mind, and it will be the equivalent of the accountant-facing book, but purely for advisors to help them understand at the end of the day really how it is such an effective tool to help them build their business and bring more value to clients.
Anything we haven't talked about, or anything, just your excitement for the upcoming event or your vision for this year?
Two thoughts come to mind. I mean, one is when we talk about the books and I laughingly joke that I'm all in, but I really am. And in a meaningful way, you do so much in your life and in your career that I think sometimes it's helpful to have these almost, again, like flags in the ground where you go, this was something that I worked on and was a solid project and I put my name behind and I'm proud of. And a book is, in my opinion, one of those things. You have a business or businesses that you grow and hopefully you love and you're proud of. You have memories with your family or homes that you bought or remodeled, and you have a book or books that you wrote. It's there with the things that I'm most proud of in not an ego way, but I put a lot of love, sweat, and tears into communicating something I believe in, and now other people have it in their hands. And if something was to happen to me and I was wiped out, that book is there to communicate the message that I was trying to share from a professional perspective with other people. And that's why ultimately this has to be a 4-part series. There's 4 different essentially stories I want to tell. And it's important to tell those with a language and the experience that resonates with each of those individual readers. So that was just something I've never really considered or thought of. And besides that, in terms of optimism for the event or vision for the future, I think I probably would just end where I began, which is it's fun and crazy to see how much is changing, how quickly. I get these little snippets of the AI robots that are coming, or like just some of the things that are so inspiring right now. Kind of scary, but also inspiring. And to have confidence that we're in a lane, a swim lane, or a business model that is not only going to survive these changes, but actually thrive from them it's hard to put words around how meaningful it is. So very excited, very optimistic, very appreciative of your work and the short book formula. And yeah, I look forward to the next 2 books.
Very cool. Anton Anderson, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on again, Paul. Cheers.